Greetings. The secret society secret. Let's talk about it. I hope you're doing good today. You never know what type of conversation I'm going to have over here. So hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification button. Yes, indeedy. Take care of yourself. Make sure you get the easiest way to become a vegan. You can grab it at www.veganintel.com. It's real simple. Get 3 or 4. Give some to your family members. Let's try to help people with these bad medical conditions they got out here. Help some people lose some weight. And so I am drinking a protein drink. It's almond milk, chocolate almond milk, peanut butter, blackstrap molasses, and some chocolate protein powder. You might want to grab some of this. I'm trying to get my workout on. So I have to eat more. As a vegan, I don't get hungry. I don't have all that acid, all that poison in my stomach. Sometimes I might only eat once a day, sometimes twice. So I'm trying to get up to eating 3 times a day and a couple snacks, which is very hard because I don't like breakfast. I usually like to drink in the morning. So I feel like I've been talking too much earthling talk, and I don't mind helping. But my conversations are much more broad than that. Yeah, that drink gives you a real energy boost. Helps me. Jamal helps me do my push-ups. I'm trying to get my push-up game up. Well, shout out to Ontario, Canada, Sterling Evans, Don Anderson, Stefan, Sir Drop TV, Posy, Francisco, Yafita Vegan Prince, Bleeder, my man Jamal Rogers, Sterling Evans, Robert Houston, Will of the Most High, Bleeder 2. Okay, Seeking Hebrew Identity. Shalom, my brother. Shalom, shalom. So, yesterday in one of my live streams, someone mentioned the Illuminati. Oh, no, they mentioned the Boule. Someone mentioned the Boule. Right? So, greetings, Raw, Ital, Vital, vegetarian. Someone mentioned the Boule, and they mentioned Steve Coakley. And I figured, let me break down the information about these secret societies. Now, there are a lot of various secret societies. The origin of secret societies was all based on not being detected by Christianity. It was a time when, certain things you couldn't say because you could be punished. You could be tortured because of Christianity. So some secret societies were nothing more than people getting together and talking about things that was considered pagan. So if you knew anything about the ever seeing Eye of Haru, or the Ankh, or any of these Egyptian symbols, just wearing that type of stuff, you could be considered a pagan or a witch or a warlock. So people had to go underground to express certain ideologies, whether it was mysticism, whether it was Greek mythology, Roman mythology, um, Wicca, which is witchcraft, whether it was good witchcraft or bad witchcraft. You have the good and the bad. Any forms of magic, and so people had to go underground. Kings would have to go underground because the kingdom would be teaching one thing, but the king wants to learn other things. So, the king would, or the queen would join these secret societies. And they had secret societies for men, they had secret societies for women, and they had secret societies for both men and women. Uh, Back in the days in Europe, some of these secret societies were formed because different people were from different countries that wanted to get together and have one ideology to spread to all these different countries. They also had to hide, because if you're in England and you're in Germany and you don't get along, and somebody know you all are getting together making plans, uh, that'd be horrible. That's great, Jamal. You're changing that last name. Beautiful. That's a wonderful thing, brother. Wonderful. And so these secret societies, there's a lot of different secret societies. Some of your Okay, now people always talk about Illuminati, and they say stuff like the Illuminati is, Jay-Z's in the Illuminati. The Illuminati is dealing with hip hop, blah blah blah. All of those things, all of that is false. Any secret society like the Illuminati on that level uh, only deals with government rulers. They don't get involved with uh, just anybody. So when you hear people saying just anybody's an Illuminati, right then they're lying. The Illuminati's not interested in Beyonce. The Illuminati is interested in the CEO of Shell, Mobil, BP, 5-star generals in Russia, 5-star generals in the United States, people that's in the Secret Service. You understand? This is what they would be interested in. Uh, most of the secret societies that people talk about today no longer exist. A secret society has to be a secret. And so, I mean, if I'm Illuminati and all of you all are saying Illuminati, guess what? I'm not Illuminati anymore. We would change that, which is very simple to do. You just call your secret meeting. You go and you say, "Look, brothers, we're no longer Illuminati." You understand? We're no longer Illuminati. We're something else. So the first thing you have to understand is that a secret society is secret. And so if you know about it, most likely it's outdated. It's like, it reminds me of James Bond when they used to show the inventions on James Bond, and he'd have a way out car and he'd have a way out phone. My father would say, anytime they show you this stuff is old. They've been made that 20 years ago. And now people would say, well, what's the secret of the secret society? Well, there's only a few groups that had to be secret. One of the main groups that had to be secret was homosexuals. Homosexuals had to go underground because during that period where England was forming and everybody was trying to follow Constantine and everybody was trying to become religious, you had to hide if you did certain things. So homosexuals were some of these secret societies were nothing more than homosexual groups that got together to do their homosexual acts without being persecuted, because the persecutions was horrible. You know, if they think you're a witch, they tie a bunch of bricks in a bag and throw you in the ocean. They say if you drown, you're not a witch. If you float, you're a witch, so kill you. I mean, you couldn't win. But the main group that had to go underground, the main two groups were the vampires and the werewolves. And this is never spoken of, ever. When you talk about true secret societies, the secret society of vampires is so secret that many people will watch this video and say, bro, you believe in vampires, which proves my point. In the Dark Ages, they got to biting so many people that there was massive hunts for these vampires. And these vampires and what happened is piercing the skin caused what you now call AIDS, the back and biting humans, the filthiness of the mouth created diseases. People started dying left and right. When they start talking about the Black Plague, they don't want to tell you what's really was going on with that. Many of the vampires themselves got sick, terminally ill, were too sick to go hunt. And so they had to go underground. They had to go underground. They had to hide. They had to go into the medical field in order to get their blood. And this is the top group of the secret societies. And if you know anything about that type of Satanism and that type of curse, because it was a curse. No, AIDS is not manufactured. HIV, Jackie, HIV is manufactured because they couldn't study AIDS. If you pull AIDS out the body, it died. They couldn't study it. So they made HIV. You ever notice AIDS? Immune acquired deficiency syndrome. And HIV is called what? What's the first word in HIV? Human, right? So HIV is a placebo form of AIDS that they figured if they would make the HIV and make a germ similar to the AIDS virus, they figured if they could learn how to cure HIV, then they would learn how to cure AIDS. HIV and AIDS are not the same virus, but they have a similar way they attack the body. Okay? Now, all of that stuff about AIDS, patent number, and all that, HIV is manufactured. AIDS is a vampire disease. Okay? That's what it is. AIDS is a disease that comes from puncturing the human body. Okay? Your body is wrapped, everything is wrapped in your body. Your blood is wrapped in these veins. So your blood runs through these veins. Everything is enclosed. Nothing hits the air. The only air is the air that you take in through the holes in your body, the holes, in your penis, your vagina, in your butt, your mouth, your nose, your ears, your eyes. This is where you get air. You have air vents naturally made. And when you poke a spot, you're creating something. Now, people say, how could you prove that? It progresses to an AIDS-like symptoms, Jamal. See? You get the same they made HIV to make sure they made something that would give you the same symptoms as AIDS. And they figured if they could cure that and those symptoms, then they could cure AIDS. But AIDS is a vampire's disease from puncturing the body. Now, you just say, bro, you're talking crazy. Well, how are people getting AIDS? People are getting AIDS, anal sex. But it's not just the anal sex, it's the ripping of your rectum, and it's the blood. It bleeds. Needles. Huh? Needles. Needles are what? Poking holes. Poking holes into the body. You understand? How did homosexuals get AIDS? Well, when these secret societies were driven under, look up lycanthropy. Lycanthropy is the technical term for werewolf. Werewolf. So when these people have lycanthropy and they have, what calls them vampires. Yeah, tats could be very dangerous too if you're not careful. When you look at AIDS and you want to know, well, how did the homosexuals get the AIDS? The homosexuals got the AIDS from monkeys. As a matter of fact, a lot of you all are too young. When I was in LA when a bunch of white men just started dying of AIDS. I remember when it first happened. It was like 20 white men just died. And they started panicking. They thought it was just going to kill all the white men. And they did a special on 60 Minutes. And they went back and they found the first white man that had AIDS and spread it. It's mighty funny that you can't find that episode anywhere. And this guy was a rich jet setter that flew around to different countries and had sex with little boys and men and shit. And he was fucking these monkeys in Africa. And he was, because they do bestiality too. And so he was fucking these monkeys and he came back and he starts spreading. And now you say, how the monkeys got it? The monkeys got it because when these vampire and werewolf secret societies had to be driven under, they had to revert back to animals. So they had to start biting animals. They weren't able. Uh, uh, they wasn't able to bite people. You know, so they were biting animals. The werewolves were eating goats and stuff. Uh, this has a lot to do with Halloween and the reason you guys eat meat. The reason meat is promoted, both meat promotion, raw meat, sushi, all this type of stuff is promoted to you. Um, and Halloween is promoted to you to allow them to be who they are, where they won't stand out. See, if you were vegans or if you were, you would see the difference. Why is this guy eating this steak that's rare? You understand? Halloween was designed so that they could come out. So the idea of Halloween, everything they tell you about Halloween is a lie. Halloween was designed so that if I'm a vampire, I'm a ghoul. I get you all to dress up like that so I can come out. You understand? And they showed that on 60 Minutes, but with the guy spreading the AIDS. But what they left out is that vampirism is a higher form of a warlock, and in the witchcraft and warlock, you practice homosexuality. The idea of the Luciferian is to do the opposite of what God, the Creator, would have you do. So, if you pray, you don't say, Our Father that art in heaven. You say, Our Father that is not in heaven, hallowed is not your name. Thy kingdom will not come. I'm not going to keep going because bad things can happen if I say that whole prayer. But you say that and you say the opposite. And you do everything the opposite. So if you're supposed to have sex in the vagina, you're going to have sex in the asshole. It's going to be the opposite. So when they show you a witch on a broom, you have to read between the lines what the hell they was doing with these brooms. So the major thing of a witch's coven is homosexuality. It's a part of Luciferian practices. And so these vampires, they don't care who they bite. So they don't have a problem having heterosexual sex to get their blood or homosexual sex to get their blood. And they're all over the place now, especially in New York, New Orleans, on the up and down the East Coast, and some of the original 13 colonies. With 13 also happens to be the number of a witches' coven. So this is the top secret society, is the society of vampires and werewolves. Now with this curse of being a vampire, uh, you can't die. You won't die. It's only certain things will kill you. And so the reason they had to go underground is because they don't age well. Uh, they were some of the main people that started developing um, makeup, high levels of makeup where you could put on makeup to look older so that you could age so that people wouldn't become suspicious. But after so long, they have to go and hide. So let's say I'm a vampire and I'm putting on makeup, I'm graving my stuff, but after a while, when I get around 80 or so, I have to hide. And so, what vampires have to do, this is why they're a secret, they have to go and they have to stay in. And they have to stay in until everyone that knows them dies. And once everybody that knows them dies, then they can come back out. And you have black ones, raw Ito vegan. You have black ones too that came out of Kemet. Kemet was a stronghold for witchcraft, sorcery, and Luciferian teachings under the House of Amen. You just would not want to know what they were doing up there, okay? That's why the only holy place in Africa is Ethiopia. You understand? And so these vampires, they have to hide. They have to sit and wait until they can come back out, and nobody is alive that remember them. Sometimes people take pictures and say, this dude is a time shifter, a time traveler. No, maybe he's not a time traveler. Maybe he's never died. You understand? Yeah, they can't. There's a curse. They can't enjoy life. The lust for blood is tremendous. It's worse than a werewolf. Wolf is bad, but they only have to work. They only have to, they're lunatics. A lunatic is somebody, the word luna comes from the moon. So the werewolves have it bad too, but at least they don't have to worry until there is a full moon. And they had to have a secret society where they would have keepers that would lock them up for the full moons. And they was having a hard time because some keepers would let them out and shit, and it would be a disaster. So these are the two societies, but the werewolves don't live forever. So they basically, that's passed through, if you get scratched by one of them or something, but you're not going to live. So they're a secret, but the major secret society is the vampires. And because these vampires can live 400 years, 900 years, they live in Methuselah numbers. They're living the years that the rest of us was taken from us. If you read the Bible, you can see where it says, okay, I'm going to shorten your days. Well, their curse has extended their days, but what they do is they take advantage of that. They're able to make financial investments. They're able to manipulate finances from being here so long. So many of these billionaires and millionaires, that's what they are. You understand? That's what they are. Now, this vampire's disease, you say, well, bro, where did the original come from? This vampire's disease is a dragon. Okay, it comes from Lucifer himself. It's an infection. Okay, this is why you have the dragon, right? Then you have Dracula, you have Draco, okay, which is the dragon. If you come here to Chicago and you go see the Drake Hotel, you have to ask yourself, why do they have all these dragons? Because they know what Drake means. Yeah, they're down in Atlanta heavy. They're down in Atlanta heavy. They're in Chicago. They're in all the places, but they mostly they have to eat, so they like huge populations, so they can eat. They mostly get their victims from negativity. If they can get you to be involved with some form of negativity, then they can because you have to volunteer. So they can't just come and just bite you. You have to commit. It is a satanic element to it. So you have to submit. You have to go and submit. Like they can't come in your house. You have to let them in. They can't come in here. A vampire couldn't come in here. They'll come to the door. That's as far as they'll come. You have to invite them in. Now, once you invite them in, then they can come as often as they want. So they have developed a secret society amongst themselves. This is what they were showing you in Blade. You understand? They've been showing you real stuff in these movies, hoping that you'll blow it off. You understand? So they hope you blow it off. They show you. Black Glitz say Dark Shadows. Now, when I was a kid, we used to run home from school to watch Dark Shadows. And Dark Shadows is a TV series that they don't really want people watching too much no more, because it shows you how the vampire got to the United States. When the earlier people were coming to set up the 13 colonies, they brought some of those coffins with them, with these creatures in them. And they got these big houses and they stored these creatures. Now, let me give you a movie analogy. My mother used to watch Westerns a lot. And if you watched a lot of Westerns and you watched a lot of John Wayne movies and stuff like that, one thing you would notice that many of those guys in those movies really were real cowboys. I used to watch a lot of old gangster pictures. James Cagney, Humphrey Bogart. If you watch those, you'll find out that some of the side actors, that one mobster got killed in Vegas for wanting to hang out in and around Hollywood. Some of the side actors in the gangster movies were real gangsters. If you look today and you see hood movies, if you look at Training Day, the guy that played the Blood in Training Day is a real California gang member, and that was there when the shit went down with Suge. And so you have cowboys in cowboy movies. You have gangsters in gangster movies. You have thug in thug movies. So this is my question to you. Who's in the vampire movie? Now, these things I know. Now, I'm going to give you a theory, too. I'm going to give you a theory about what happened to Michael Jackson. Is Michael Jackson really dead? Because they bit Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was inhuman. Look at Michael Jackson's career. Michael Jackson was with the Jackson 5. He leaves the Jackson 5 and he goes solo. You know what I'm saying? And he drops a couple little songs. You know what I'm saying? But what happened? Michael Jackson started hanging out with demons. Okay? Let me look up this man's name. What's the guy's name that was talking in Thriller? Look at Thriller. Look at Thriller close. And look at what he was. Look at Thriller. Okay? Let me show you this guy's name. Because sometimes I try to think too much. Sometimes you try to think too much. You forget. Now, Thriller is Michael Jackson's biggest song. Vincent Price. Vincent Price, when Michael Jackson started, once Michael Jackson got with those vampires, once they bit him, look how his success went through the roof. Boris Karloff was a real vampire, had a vampire burial. Okay? He was real. That burial, a lot of stuff is fake. Okay? Now, Michael Jackson, once he got around Vincent Price, just go look at Thriller. Now, the only reason I say this is a theory is because I can't put my finger on if Michael was a werewolf or a vampire. I lean more towards a werewolf because I seen an interview where Mike jumped up in a tree. It's the weirdest shit ever. And, you know, all those animals around would allow him to get a fresh kills. So I lean more towards Mike being a vampire. I mean, a werewolf. But he was definitely one or the other. I knew I had ran into and met Michael Jackson's security, his main bodyguard, which was a world-known martial art expert that can do everything. And he told me, he said he can beat anybody. And the only person he would be afraid to fight, he said, was Michael Jackson. And I said, "Are you kidding?" He says, "Michael Jackson is exceptionally strong and unhumanly fast." And I see Michael performing. I don't know. And so that whole dark side is the reason that Michael Jackson became popular. You know, he was not human. And so you have now, what do you have? You have blood banks. Many of these, when you start coming into the 18th century and the 19th century, many of these vampires and stuff like that, they would become doctors, become doctors and scientists. By saying they're doctors and scientists, this would give them an excuse to hide. This would give them an excuse to stay indoors for long periods of time. This would give them an excuse to work the night shift. This would put them around plenty of blood. If you look at some of the practices that they did in the medicine, 1700, 1800, 1900, it was really barbaric. Many of the medical facilities and places where they basically tortured what they call patients, drilled all in their head and did all, many of those places still today are considered haunted. Locked up, won't let you go in there, stuff in there. The Jesuits, the Rosicrucians. Now, I can tell this story. Now, I used to go hang out with Sun Ra for days until he leaves Chicago. And I was sitting around Sun Ra, and he went to tell this story about black ice. And he was, because back then nobody had heard of black ice. And Sun Ra said, "Y'all heard of black ice?" And he was like, "We was driving and the van slid off the road. They hit some black ice." Right? And so he was talking about how you couldn't see it and they just hit it and the van went off and the van was messed up and they had to get the van fixed. And he said while they was waiting to get the van fixed, they took them to this little town, this little place where everybody lived and there was a hotel. And he said that whole town was a town of vampires. And that they stayed in with their doors locked until morning. And this town was in Minnesota. Okay? This town was in Minnesota. And he said they were Rosicrucians. It was a Rosicrucian little town. And he said the entire town were vampires. He says one of the most scariest things in his life. And that they had to stay inside. Now, me, I found that very interesting. I started looking into everything that had the RC, like RC Cola. You know, I started trying to investigate the Rosicrucians. Not only did I find that interesting, I found it interesting. He said it was in Minnesota. And I started thinking about Prince and Purple Rain. Because you do know if I bite you, you do know that it's going to be a purple bruise. Purple is the color of a very bad wound. Okay? So I also find Prince to be very suspicious. His whole act has a vampire. It has that feel to it. His look, his whole thing is creepy, to say the least. He was weird. Okay. For sure, I would have drove a stake through Prince's heart and Michael Jackson's. I'm just saying. I would have never wanted to sleep with them in the house with them. You know, I never would have wanted to sleep. You know how I don't mean sleep with them, but you know how you go visit somebody and stay at their house? There ain't no fucking way I would want to stay at Michael Jackson's house. I used to always say that I would have been horrified to stay at Michael Jackson's house at night. And the same for Prince. And in rock and roll, there's a bunch of them in rock and roll. You know, Keith Richards with the Rolling Stones. You know, Keith Richards gets blood transfusions regularly, where they take all his blood out and put new blood in. The question is, who the fuck blood is that? Okay, and where is he getting that blood? But Keith Richards is a known drug addict, have done drugs and drugs and drugs and never died. And he goes and gets these blood transfusions regularly. You understand? There's a lot of them involved in business, finance, hospitals, or the night shift at the hospital. You understand? When you go to the hospital, they always want to keep taking blood, taking blood, taking blood. We're going to take your blood. We're going to take your blood. You know, when I got stabbed, I was in the hospital in LA. They constantly saying they taking blood to check shit. I'm saying, you done took some blood. Why don't you keep checking the same blood you fucking take? But they want to come to you every day and they want to draw blood. And they don't be drawing a little bit of blood either. You know, they be drawing a lot of blood. You understand? They be drawing a lot of blood. And where is all this blood? Where people donating all this blood, where is it? Like, what is it really for? What the fuck is really going on? You understand? And so this secret society is the top. Is the top of secret societies. Is the secret society of vampires. And many of these elks and all these different shit you can go get, when you get up to the top, you don't know who's in these things. So people talk about Masons. And man, when you get to the top of these societies, they are vampires. I did one video and you can go find it and you can see this church. And the way this church is made, it's made like a snake. It has the snake head, teeth, and everything. Google it. Google church made like a snake. It's going to freak you the fuck out. Ain't nobody accidentally made that church like that. You understand? Yeah, purple rain. What the fuck do that mean? You understand? Now, I'm sure I've seen vampires. One time I seen a place I knew they were in there, but I didn't see them. I was driving somewhere in Chicago. Boy, I wish I could remember where the fuck I was at, but it freaked me out so much. And I'm making a right. It's down somewhere down around downtown. I want to say North Riverside, somewhere down on the north of the Chicago River. And I'm driving. I think I'm going somewhere to pick my wife up from somewhere. And I had to go around the block and go down this one-way street. And I'm coming down this one-way street, and there's like a club. But the people lined up, they're going down into the basement, downstairs to go in the club. But when I drove past them, I'm in the car driving. A fear just came over me, just this dark feeling. Out of fucking nowhere. It makes no sense. I mean, I drive all around. I never drove nowhere, and it's just darkness come all up in the car and I always believe it go in my intuition. But my intuition, when I looked at the place, it just freaked me the fuck out. And I didn't even see nothing. See what I'm saying? I didn't even see nothing. Just it was dark and some people going downstairs. But for some reason, a bad vibe came off of the place. You could tell there was some powerful negative energy in there. And there's plenty of stories to look this up. You know, I have friends, one friend, she goes with this guy, and this guy takes her home. She takes this guy home, right? And so they're at home, and they're at her house, and they trying to become a relationship or whatever. And he just ups and bites her real hard. So she freaks out because it hurt, right? And she was bleeding a little bit. So she freaks out. So she, they get in an argument and he leaves and shit. So, they make up. He said he was playing, he played too much stuff. So he had him come back. When he came back, he bit her again, bit her in the neck this time. She was bleeding like a motherfucker, feel me? So she like fucked him up and shit and broke it off. And like I say, listen, that was it. You understand? There's women that have met men at places, took them home. One lady, she met a man, she took him home, and in the middle of the night, she woke up and he was leaving, but she was bleeding like a motherfucker. Feel me? So when you go to things, so if you go to a Halloween party, there's 300 people there. They just playing. But a couple or a few or several of them motherfuckers in there ain't playing. You understand me? And so how they get their people is they get people to be intrigued. You ever see people being intrigued? They want to pretend they demons. They want to pretend they're in the dark side. They want to be goth. You want to paint your nails black. And you want to get some fake vampire teeth. You want to wear all these dark colors, and you want to get into the whole goth movement. You think it's cool. You think it's hip. Yeah. And then you go around them thinking that everybody's pretending like you. No. So you go into a situation where there's real ones. Okay, that's why you have to stay in positive environments. Okay, you have to watch people that don't like garlic, that don't like vegetables, that, certain things they don't like. They don't like marijuana smoke. They don't like sage. They don't like rosemary. They don't like garlic. They don't like sunlight. Now, only one time have I actually seen a vampire, and that was in Hawaii. I seen a lady that was a vampire. It's Hawaii. So everybody looks the same, everybody in the same thing. And so one day I go into town, I'm going to the health food store. And on this side of the street, they got stores and they all got awnings coming off. So it's shade. And I see this girl trying to be under the awning because the sun is out. She got a goddamn umbrella. But she's walking like she's drunk. Right? She's walking like it's like a drunk, but it's more like she's weak. And she's got this umbrella trying to block the sun. And she was whiter than anything I ever fucking seen in my life. She wasn't white like white people. She was white like paper. You know what I'm saying? And all I can say is, I'm across the street over there. I see her down there and I see her. And she looks at me and then she keeps walking, right? Freaky shit. So, like 4 or 5 days later, I'm at like a reggae show or something. And I look up and there that damn girl is staring at me because, you know, they have telepathy and they have the power to know if you've seen them. And so this thing just shows up. And she was looking at me as if to like a threat, like keep my damn mouth shut. It was weird. And then guess what? Never seen it again. Nothing about her looked normal. Who the fuck got on all black clothes in fucking Hawaii? Who got a fucking umbrella for the sun? Hawaii doesn't get hot like Arizona hot, so it wasn't hot like that. Why was she under the shade and with an umbrella blocking the sun? And why was it seem like that heat had her staggering where she could barely walk? And I said to myself, that's one. Because they could come outside, but the sun doesn't work well for them. They don't like, somebody said garlic don't like, they don't like garlic. And it's not that they don't like to smell the garlic, but they can't drink blood if you ate garlic. I don't know if you've been a vegan a long time, like me. There's moments where you do different things, and if you eat a bunch of garlic, two things that'll show up if you eat a bunch of it: carrots. If you drink a bunch of carrot juice and just drink it, you know you'll turn kind of orange. And garlic. If you eat a lot of garlic, a lot raw, and you wake up the next day, you'll smell it. And they can't bite you with that garlic in the blood. So it ain't like it's not that they don't like the garlic. It's that the blood is no good with the garlic in it. You understand? So they don't like the garlic in your blood. You understand? Now, as far as them being afraid of the cross, they're not afraid of the cross because the Christian cross is the symbol of death. So they love the cross. You know, you ever watch these old vampire movies and I would tell you that, you know, you pull out the cross and scare Dracula, but then at night, this motherfucker walking through the graveyard. He walking through the graveyard and this big ass crosses every goddamn went through the whole graveyard. So see, this is where they try to confuse you and try to mix you up. So the cross, they're not afraid of the cross. The way to kill vampires and werewolves is very simple. One of them, their enemy is the sun, and the other one, their enemy is the moon. Gold represents the sun, and silver represents the moon. So if you were to make gold bullets and shoot a vampire, you would kill the motherfucker. They don't like gold. See, when they told you they didn't like a cross, they left out that those crosses are made of gold. See? They don't like gold. They don't like the sun. So if that gold penetrates their body, it will kill them. If that If that silver penetrates a werewolf, it'll kill him. And then the ultimate monster killer is iron. Iron is a substance that is not from Earth. It is a cosmic substance that kills any type of a monster, including a dragon. When we was in Hawaii, we used to carry these big, those metal rods that be about this big. We would go get those metal rods at about 6 feet tall, and we would carry those rods and bang those rods into the ground. You understand? Well, iron is a very powerful, it's the most powerful metal, more powerful than gold or silver. Iron is the dragon slayer. You understand? It might be wise for you to get an iron rod into your house and sharpen the tip of it and just keep it. Pass it on to your grandsons. Pass it on. Tell them it's symbolic. It's symbolic of a warrior. It's a symbolic of killing evil. You understand? Well, iron is the most powerful, but you can shoot them. You just have to make sure you get custom-made bullets, silver and gold. You understand? So these are the real reasons for secret societies: homosexuality, vampires, and werewolves. These are the people that had to hide the most. And homosexuals weren't going to be hunted like that. It's just if you went out and you did something homosexual, they would get you. But they were actually hunting vampires all across Europe and all across Africa. I'm going to have to dig up a bunch of my old research and talk to y'all about the dragons and the vampires in Africa, and St. George, the dragon slayer. St. George, the dragon slayer. And so I figured you all need to know that, because people want to know about secret societies, and nobody knows about the secret of the secret societies at the top. Many of those other secret societies, guess what type of beings run it? You can bet, if there's Illuminati, you can bet the head person is a vampire. A vampire, by having this longevity, right, has the power to rule militaries, countries. They have the power to rule. They have the power to manipulate, because they're able to sit for so long and learn and absorb. They're able to gather massive amount of wealth beyond what you would think, which is very interesting, because dragons also live around massive amounts of wealth. So when you have these ships, these Spanish ships would crash with all the gold in it, that's where these serpents would go and live in the bottom of the ocean around these ships. They like shiny things. Okay? All of this is related. Now, some people would say, well, how are vampires related to dragons? Because Lucifer, the number one with dragon, as a dragon matures, a dragon's magical power increases. Dragons are born in small, multicolored eggs, look like jelly beans. You ever notice how Ronald Reagan loved jelly beans and his name was 666? That's a whole other story. But dragons are born in these small things. It takes 3,000 years for them to be born. 1,000 years in the ocean, 1,000 years in the mountain, and 1,000 years amongst man. Man has not been willing to raise the eggs. The only people that have been willing to raise the eggs is the Chinese. Therefore, this is why you can go and see the Chinese movies. When you watch the old Chinese movies and you see the war between this temple with the long hair that look like they vegans and stuff against the other temple that look like they demonic, this is the secret behind the fights between these people in China. It was between the ones that was righteous fighting against the temples that were hiding dragon eggs and raising dragons. This is why the dragon is worshipped in China. they know about it. The dragon can cause floods, cause it to rain tremendously, so on and so forth. So most of them now that are being birthed in China. When they're born as babies, when they're first born, they grow extremely fast. In a couple of days, they're about the size of a Doberman. They look like a Doberman. If you take a really mean looking Doberman with some wings, that's what a young dragon looks like. And as they grow, as they get older, their powers increase. Now these majestical reptiles live thousands of years. They live a long time, but they have a rank and file. So as you become an older dragon, all other serpents and stuff, like if you were to find a dragon, an old dragon, and you went to his lair, it would just be full of all type of snakes and reptiles would live around him and under him and on him and around him. And they usually have gathered up a bunch of shiny items, pearls, gold chains. You understand? You even got birds now that are going to steal shiny items and put it in their nests. And they found people nesting. They have keys and they have shiny stuff. So the dragons are attracted to this. Now, as they live, as they go, to their magical ability gets stronger and stronger. So when you talk about one up to the level of Lucifer, Lucifer can appear as a man, as a bat. How many times have you seen Dracula do what? Turn into a what? A bat. Okay? So I'm going to have to do a whole nother video to show you all the comparison with the vampire and the dragon. When the dragon gets to a higher level, then his magic is beyond what you could comprehend. Now, all dragons are not evil. You have dragons that are just regular creatures, but you have others that are beyond evil. And their number one enemy is Behemoth, the elephant. And the elephant is the opposite of the dragon, is the dragon's enemy. Both the dragon and the elephant were created on the fifth day in the 5 million year period. They say fifth day. That's a million years. So when you look at creation, there's I want to make sure I'm right with that. When you look at creation, and it says 6 days, that's 6 million years. Uh, Let me make sure I'm right when I say what day, because this stays forever. I think that was the fifth day. So the fifth day, that's when the dragon and Behemoth was created. They are mortal enemies. You understand? Mortal enemies. And uh, so this is what secret societies is really about. Millions. Each year was million. Each day was 1 million years. Creation took 6 million years. When the Lord and Lordesses was created on the sixth day, that was 5 million years after everything else had been here And the animals had been here 1 million years before the lords and lordesses were here. The phoenix bird is basically uh, the phoenix bird. They say it's the opposite of the dragon, but the phoenix bird is extraterrestrial. And the difference between so the phoenix bird is extraterrestrial, and it's not really the opposite of. It's not really the mortal, and it's not really the enemy of the dragon. If you go look up dragon, all you gotta do is search dragon and behemoth or dragon and elephant. You'll see them fighting, and so uh, the dragon could beat every creature except the elephant. The elephant was the one creature it couldn't beat because even if it killed the elephant and the elephant falls on it, that's it. You know what I'm saying? It would be stuck there under the elephant and it would die too. So the elephant was, and I'm talking about behemoth. I'm not talking about the elephant that you all see. I'm talking about behemoth. You know, most of those animals, you're looking at a watered down version of everything, even us. So everything you see on this earth is a watered down version because, you know, the gods was like, okay, y'all tripping. Not just people weren't the only one tripping, the animals that just went berserk. It was too many big old monsters. There was too many big old giants. That's why it had to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. At our size, it could kill us in 10 days and 10 nights. It doesn't take 40 days and 40 nights to drown us. If it rained straight for 10 days and 10 nights, it would kill all you motherfuckers on this earth. So it rained for 40 days and 40 nights because it was some big old shit that had to go. Mostly land creatures. The water creatures are still in the water. You can't drown them motherfuckers, see, but they wasn't causing a major problem. The problems was being uh, caused on the land. And the big flying creatures, if it rains for 40 days and 40 nights, they would have to land. They don't have the power to stay up there and fly for long periods of time. They have to land. Okay. And they can't land in trees. They land on the ground. So all those drown. You know what I'm saying? Only the birds was able to survive. This is how a bird came, and Noah seen the bird and knew that it must be dry land somewhere. You understand? But the flood was was distinctly had nothing to do with just trying to do. It was distinctly to kill giants and dinosaurs. So when everybody want to know what happened to the dinosaurs, just read the flood. It drowned them. All of the land creatures that was big, they had to go because as you go, so the animals go. So when you get corrupt, the animals get corrupt. So when you eat dead flesh and you go to Popeyes and you get your dead flesh and you eat it and you throw the bones out the window, then the birds eat the chicken. Is a bird supposed to eat a dead bird? Is a bird supposed to eat chicken? So when you see these animals doing all these foul, corrupt things, they get it from us. As we go, the animals go. This is why in the scriptures it say in the last day, what? The lamb and the lion shall what? Lay side by side, meaning that we won't be in our corrupt ways no more. Therefore, the animals won't be like that either. We have corrupted everything. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You're about to flood again. Everybody don't believe the flood, hold that thought. Just fucking drowned right here down there in North Carolina, a bunch of water. And look, they kept it out the news, and guess what? Japan had just got hit. Indonesia and India, all them got hit by that big ass fucking tsunami. You notice the news didn't let y'all know that that tsunami was going across there, killing all them people and flooding everybody at the same time. You was flooding here. They're not telling you what's going on. You understand? You know, it's the same thing. You understand? The only difference is that your ultimate faith is fire. You know, your fate on this earth is fire. You know, you basically gonna set your earth on fire. They saying the Nephilim is returning. I mean, when they say the Nephilim is returning, they just talking about the gods. You know, they're just talking about the gods making their rounds back to the planet. That's all, and showing their face because there's always been Nephilims here. There's always they're still here, but these Nephilims that was here are are the royal ones. They're not the people. So the Nephilims is here are the angels, the Lord and Lordesses. Those Nephilims, they didn't drown. They were on the side of the Most High that drowned everybody. So the Lords and Lordesses didn't drown. It's just the creations. You got to understand that these Nephilims, when these Nephilims start mixing with the descendants of Adam and Eve, and Adam and Eve was a nice size too. So you're talking about an 8, 9 foot human beings mixing with a human being bigger, 15 foot. You understand? Because people say, well, damn, well, how would giants sleep with us? Well, we was bigger than this. We're not descend, we're not Adam and Eve. We are a mixture of these Nephilims and Adam and Eve. And then they cut our size down. Our size has been cut down. And people say, well, how would God cut our size down? Simply just adjust the weather, just with the oxygen and shit, and you grow smaller. All your growth and everything is determined by the air you breathe and your sunlight. The creator adjust your sunlight, adjust your air, adjust your water, and then you'll be smaller. It's not really that hard. And so these Nephilims, they say, are coming back. I mean, many of them are still in the center of the earth. So I don't know if they're coming back when they're already living inside the earth. You know, they've been here. You know, these spaceships is in and out of here all the time. They just go right down in the ocean and go down. But they never left here. It's UFO sightings all day long, every day. So they never left. You know what I'm saying? If anything, you know, there could be a war between certain creatures from other planets. You got to understand that the group that came down and created us are not the only group that was out there, but the thing was the group that created us are the most dangerous. No one can beat them, so nothing is going to do anything to us. We're the gods that we're descendants of, the angels and gods that we are descendants of, protect us. So when people say Nibiru are coming, I'm no. They won't get. They'll only get so close before they'll be what they call Star Wars. And so our protectors will go up there and fuck them up. Like we have our own aliens. You understand? We have aliens that are based on Earth. When you hear about many of these aliens, their base is here. They're leaving out of mountains and out of the ocean. They come straight out the ocean. They come down, they go straight on. Nobody see them. Right down into the spot. Those things are submarines and spaceships. They can go anywhere. So they go right down. They don't have to land on the land for you to see them. They don't have to land in the daytime. They can land in the dead of night. They don't need lights. You know how they always show you a spaceship, you can see it with lights? They don't have to leave those lights on. They can turn that shit off. You ain't going to see nothing. They just go down in the ocean and park. You know, it's a whole bunch of creatures live inside this earth. Your creator, when your creator comes to the earth, that's where your creator and his wife be, in the earth. So people, when they say hell is in the earth, that's where they get that from. And people say, oh, that's fake. No, that's where they get hell from. That's where they get your judgment from. That's where old boy in them furnaces at? There is a furnace in this earth that they throw your ass, but it's not the type of fire that you know. The type of fire that you all have now, if you burn up right now, it won't burn up your soul or your spirit. So your spirit still, if you catch on fire right now, your house catch on fire, your spirit still, your DNA gonna go find your DNA, your spirit gonna live. But hell, the hell fire is not like y'all fire. When you're thrown in there, that's it. That shit burn your spirit and your body. Burns your whole total reincarnation when you here for that time. The Christians teach a wrong story when they say you're in purgatory till judgment day. No, your DNA, you just keep reincarnating and you keep being here until the end. I mean, Stevie Wonder told you. Stevie Wonder say, on my last time on earth, I lived a whole bunch of sin. I'm going to keep on trying till I reach a higher ground. He told you. They begin in spirit, they begin inspired to make those songs. He said his last time on earth, he lived a bunch of sin. So when the Christians tell you you live a sinful life and you're going to hell, that's a lie. You ain't going to hell. None of y'all have been destined to hell yet. Anybody that would be destined to hell don't even have a body. They're a ghost. If you got a body, you're still in good favor. If you're living, all the creatures on this planet, all of you all are still in good favor with the Most High. And you will constantly reincarnate unless you just go too far. Then you just won't come back. Your DNA will not, your spirit will not go to another DNA. You'll be a ghost. But if you're here, you're here. And you will judge yourself. You will not be judged like that. You will decide if you're going to take a mark on your body or not in your reincarnated state, and that will determine your fate. Your fate will be determined if you take the mark of the beast. No matter how many times you've been to this earth reincarnated, when you are reincarnated in that dispensation and you take that, that's it for you. You're done. Yeah, they killed that giant in Afghanistan. You still have people have that DNA. Right. Everybody teaches that. So, like Sunrise say, you're on the spaceship Earth, but you haven't met the captain yet. You don't know who's flying this planet. I hope you do know that this is a spaceship. The Earth. I hope you know that this is not just a ball flying around. This is a fucking spaceship we're on. Do you know that? Like they teach you that they teach you that because you do have various type of spacecrafts. This is the big spacecraft, the base station. This is, you hear what they say want to go build a space station? That's what you're on. You're on a space station. And the cosmic ships leave and come back and leave and come back, and they go patrol to make sure that other people don't come and fuck with y'all. You're blessed by the gods. Like, your protection is strong. Back in the 70s and the 80s, every time something bad and black people would be attacked, there would be more UFO sightings. Anytime man starts doing a bunch of foul shit to other creatures, other men and other people, then there's more sightings of spaceship. Yeah, this whole thing is connected. It's intergalactic. You understand? All of these planets that you see were created before there were beings on the planets. The planets were created, then step by step, different things are formed and formulated on these planets, and then the living creatures like us are always the last ones because everything has to be set up. So it already has to be an ecosystem before you could come. And your ecosystem, it depends on what type of creature you are. So when they go look at Saturn or some other planets, say can't nobody live there. Well, what do you mean nobody? Because you don't know what type of species that is. You don't know if that's an invisible species. You don't know if that particular planet was designed to live inside the planet. Because some of the planets are not designed to live on the outside. This is one of the few in this galaxy that are designed to live on the outside. A lot of the planets are designed to live on the inside. So if you live on a planet that's in the line of fire of meteors and other space, natural shit to happen in space, then the creator will design it for you to live in the inside, so you know you won't be getting hit by comets and shit like that. It hit the outside, you're in the inside, you never know the shit got hit. You understand? So when you say the creator, you're talking about a crazy mind. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to understand the creator, just look at all these creatures. Like, watch the animal shows. You know, I watch the animal shows and I think to myself, first off, can't no Big Bang just make all this shit here. This is a lot of shit, right? So then I look at like all the different type of monkeys and different type of shit in the ocean and shit. And I'm like, listen, this ain't no, somebody is really deep. You know, what would think of this? And so I'm going to end by telling you, if you want to get a good idea about how the creator thinks and how the creator, if you want to see the creator boasting and you want to get a good idea and you want to know more and you want to see something about the dragon, at 12 o'clock, you got to wait till 12 o'clock. You have to wait till 12 o'clock at night. At 12 o'clock midnight, read the book of Job, okay? At 12 o'clock midnight. You have to wait till 12 o'clock midnight. You have to wait till all the lights and all this electricity and everybody park their car and you don't have so much Babylon waves flying through the air. Wait until everything calms down. At 12 o'clock midnight, read the book of Job. A holy man, the creator sent a holy man to me on the corner of LA selling incense to tell me to do this. So this holy man came to me and said, read the book of Job at 12 o'clock at night. And so then I went and read it. Yeah, then we can discuss it. I went and read it, and then the creator had that holy man come back to me. And so that holy man came back, and me and my brethren, we was young Ross Comedic Rosses. We went to this holy man's room. He had like a room he was renting. And we went to his room. It was crazy. And when I never forget, when he opened his door to his room, his bed was covered with Bibles, and they were all open to the same pages, right? It was weirdest shit ever. And he had every kind of Bible you could think of. That's how I learned that. He had the Jewish Torah, he had the Catholic Bible, he had all these versions of the Bible. And when he would read a chapter, he would read it in each book and he would show us how each version said something totally different. Shit was deep. And he had his loins girded. He took a white cloth and he would wrap his loins and wrap his navel, right? And so we was inspired by the Most High. So we went and bought some long white material, and I would be in LA. I wrapped my loins, which I'm finna start doing again. And I would wrap my loins, which is crazy. If I would have had my loins wrapped when I got attacked, I never would have got stabbed as bad because the knife wouldn't have went in so easy. This shit is deep. But he had his loins girded. And I tell you, man, I never forget that brother. He was way out. But when I read Job at 12 o'clock at night, that really tripped me out. I'm so happy for that brother because I never, ever would have read that like that if that brother wouldn't have told me that. And Job, once I read the book of Job, that was what finalized my knowledge right there. That's like the most important book in the Bible to get understanding is the book of Job. That's way out. That's why no preacher teaches on that book. That is a way out book. Okay? And it's when the creator comes down out of a whirlwind and start dissing Job, telling Job, where was you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Which many people say is the pyramids. Many people say when the creator says, Job, where was you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Many people say that is the creator saying that the creator and the gods built Kemet, the foundations of the earth, the center of the earth. Everybody knows that the pyramids are the center of the earth and are arranged with space. Everybody knows that. You understand? All the scientists will tell you that if you was to pick a point that would be the center of the earth, would be the main spot of the earth, it would be where the Great Pyramid is at. Okay? And so the book of Job is what you need to read to get an idea. And I mean, he was going off on Job. He was asking him, can he feed the lions? And he was asking him, boy, he was asking him some really deep ass shit, man. Let me just read one. I'm like, what the hell am I reading? Right? I was like, what the heck? You know, what the heck is going on? Feel me? When he went off on Job, man, and I was like, wow, it was too much. And especially the explanation of Leviathan. And I challenge anybody to read the description of Leviathan and tell me it doesn't sound amazingly realistic. It doesn't sound made up. We're saying way out shit to Joe. Very interesting stuff. I'm just going to read one part of it. Very interesting stuff. Way before it gets to chapter 41, talk about Leviathan. He says, moreover, the Lord answered, the Lord, right? So it doesn't say God. You always have to pay attention when it says the Lord and when it says God. Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer. Right? He asked me, said, Hast thou an arm like God, or canst thou thunder with a voice like him? He says, behold now Behemoth. Remember I talked about Behemoth? Which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo, now his strength is in the loins, and his force is in the marvel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, that sinews off of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. You just got to read it all. And he's asking them the book of Job, Job, which also now is a job. Very interesting, also. So it's very interesting in the book of Job. He's asking them, can you feed the lions? Can you pull the dragon out of the ocean? Like, if you see the dragon, you'll shit on yourself. Basically, that's what he's telling them. I mean, like, if any of y'all on this earth see Leviathan, y'all will fall down and weep and cry. Which I feel is the way that the Most High God is going to get the attention of mankind. I personally believe that the dragon will get a little strength and attack. And then only one other being will be able to save us. And that's a whole nother story for another day. So I hope you found that interesting. Read Job after 12 o'clock at night. And the next time we'll talk about the comparison with the dragon and the vampire.